Okay, well, I wanted to bring you some of my research in regards to a very mysterious constellation that I've been looking at called Ophiuchus. Now, I know a lot of you would probably be aware of Ophiuchus. It featured in Zeitgeist and it also featured in a lot of documentaries in regards to Nostradamus. But there is a lot of very interesting information about Ophiuchus, and I think it is something that we need to pay attention to. So Ophiuchus was known for his gifts of immortality and healing. He was also known as the medicine man. And he sits right at the entrance to the dark rift. Now, on the 21st of December 2012, our sun and our earth are going to conjunct in a very rare alignment with the dark rift. And this is at the end of a 26,000 year precessional cycle. So we are leaving the age of Pisces, which is the age of the mental, the age of I think, I believe, and we are moving into the age of Aquarius, which is known as the age of intuition. I know is the motto for Aquarius. So we can see that Rome would not want us knowing that we are now moving to a time of enlightenment and a time of higher consciousness. They would rather us believe that the reality they have created for us is going to continue on infinitely. However, we need to understand that the reality we now exist in is nothing but an illusion, and we can now see that illusion crumbling around us. But the Vatican and the power elite are going to hang on to control for as long as they can. So it's up to us to try and decode what the ancients were trying to relay to us. Now, we need to start understanding that the constellations are actually timekeepers. And this is how the ancients knew what part of the cycle that we were in. But unfortunately for Rome, they can manipulate the books, they can manipulate the knowledge, but they can't fully manipulate the constellations. They can't change the stars around. The best that they can do is actually just try and remove things and take them away from our sight and hide them away, which is what they've done with Ophiuchus. So what I've started to realize is that a lot of the mythology is actually relaying to us these times and these events and the time of the precessional wheel that we're in right now before we are about to head in to the golden age. A time of higher learning, a time of expanded consciousness. And, you know, the Egyptians spoke of this. We see the Greeks spoke of this time. We see this in nearly all of the cultures around our planet. Now, it's also interesting to note that the Maya say that on the 21st of December 2012, the dark rift is going to align with our sun and our planet and cause the galactic center to experience an outburst of energy. And this energy is going to permeate the whole galaxy, and it's going to renew and refresh and change everything. So it seems that we definitely are heading into a new part of the cycle, and one that we are going to experience just how powerful we really are. And of course, Rome does not want us knowing that we really are very powerful individuals. Instead, they want us just believing, as I said, that we are just manifest in this physical realm and we just exist within the illusion that they've created for us to make us somehow happy with our slavery. So I had a look at some of the mythology surrounding Ophiuchus, and I started finding some very interesting information. Firstly, Ophiuchus is known as the controller of the snake. And we also can see that the constellation that he is actually controlling was known as the Hydra. But once again, we can see that Rome has manipulated information and changed that into the constellation Serpens. But it used to be called the constellation Hydra. Now, the story goes that for a while there, Ophiuchus oversaw a great time on our planet, and mankind was very healthy. We experienced healing, we experienced immortality, and things were pretty good. And then in a fit of rage, Zeus, who was jealous. Now Zeus is also Orion. Once again, I will bring you more information about that, but when we're looking at the different parts of the mythology, we have to understand that they're talking about these constellations and they're talking about the stories in our heavens. So Zeus became jealous and he struck down Ophiuchus. But then after a time, Zeus replaced him back up in the heavens and instructed him to control the serpent. Now, when we start looking at this on a level of consciousness, we may be able to understand that what the story is trying to tell us is that for a time in this cycle, Ophiuchus oversees a very loving, healthy, and great period. However, at some stage, the alignments change and Orion takes that power from him. After a while, Orion then replaces the power, but then tells him that he has to control the Hydra. So I'm taking that he is controlling the Hydra for the rest of the cycle, the rest of the 26,000 year processional cycle. And we can relate the serpent, the Hydra, to lower consciousness, to the reptilian consciousness, because when we're thinking about reptiles and the reptilian part of humanity, we should actually start equating that to consciousness. It's the lower reptilian consciousness. It's what we see around us when we're looking at all the violence, when we're looking at all the mass consumption of materialism, when we're looking at people that totally exist in the ego, that are empty inside, and that think that they can buy their way into happiness and spirituality, yet they're very empty because they don't go any deeper than the surface. So this is the reptilian consciousness we see manifested at this time. So we can actually understand on a level that Ophiuchus is the controller of that consciousness. But we're now coming to the end of this cycle. Now, what's interesting in this mythology, and we need to understand now that Hercules is actually Orion. And we can see this because Hercules carries a club. He carries a club here, and here we see him with the club again. And he is with his nephew, Iolaus. And Iolaus is seen here, and we can also see him here. Now, when we look at the constellation a little bit more carefully and closely, we can see that here's Orion, here's his club, and it's right next to the head of the Hydra. So there is definitely a connection between Hercules, Orion, and the Hydra. So the interesting part of this story is that Hercules goes through 12 labors. Now, this is really interesting as well because this ties into Egyptian mythology about Apep or Apophis, who is the nemesis of Seti. And he basically battles Seti through the 12 gates of the underworld. And we need to understand that the 12 gates of the underworld are actually the 12 ages of the processional cycle. The underworld is us, is this manifested reality on the physical realm. So we need to understand that there's a higher reality and there is a lower reality. And we can see this even in the Egyptian texts. We can see this in the Hermetics, that we are basically the mirror of the heavens. As above, so below. As below, so above. So we can see that once again, this mythology is carried through into other cultures, and we see the snake represented time and time and time again. And by the way, it's interesting to note that the Hydra constellation is the longest of all of the constellations. So think about that when you actually see the snake clasping its tail in some of those older etchings and paintings. We can clearly see that there's a cycle happening. So let's have a look at this mythology. It goes on to say that Iolus basically helped his uncle Hercules slay the Hydra, because what he did was sear the Hydra's neck each time Hercules had cut the head off. So the other interesting thing to note is that the Hydra is actually immortal and one of the heads can't be destroyed. So to me, this shows us the continuation of the cycle. The cycle will always repeat and we will always go into times of higher consciousness and lower consciousness. So what I'm thinking is that we are seeing Orion and Ophiuchus slay the Hydra on the 21st of December 2012 when Ophiuchus is in that very rare alignment. And this is what the mythology is showing us. So I just thought I'd bring you that information. I'm only just beginning to look at all of this research in this area, but I wanted to start uploading videos in regards to it. And if you have seen or found anything that can correlate to what I'm showing you here, then I would love to hear from you. But anyway, I will leave it there. And as always, peace out.